Hello and welcome to this masterclass. This masterclass is called My Fertility Secrets, Explaining the Unexplained. It is all about what I have learned on my own fertility journey quite a few years ago now, and what I have applied with my clients that have had tremendous success by looking at their fertility and their fertility issues from a more mind, body, emotions perspective. So if you want to know more about that, make sure you stick with me for the next 60 minutes, probably will be here. So let's dive in. Just a very quick intro. My name is Jennifer Lynn. I'm a holistic therapist. I have been since 2007. I'm also a certified teacher. And now I've really moved into the teaching world where I have created my own certification programs. And the main one that I'm teaching is the Fertile Woman Practitioner Program. And it trains women up into how to work with women like yourself who are trying to conceive. It is open to anyone. You don't have to be an existing therapist to do it. And in fact, I actually created my first fertility program while I was still struggling to get pregnant myself. I just figured, well, I'm doing all this stuff for myself, so why not do it with some other women too and see what the success is like. And actually that first ever fertility program that I ran, which a lot of what I'm going to explain to you today, I did in that program. 8 out of the 10 women in the program got pregnant within 4 to 6 months, and including myself. So it was actually 9 out of 11 if you include myself in it. Okay. So I did have my kids quite late on at 40 and at 42. So if you are in that older age bracket, you're definitely in good hands here. I'm definitely a firm believer that age is not an infertility diagnosis. It goes on a lot of other things. So here's just some of my certifications. I actually have a lot more than these, but these are the main ones that I have used, definitely with working with fertility clients, and a lot of where I've drawn a lot of my inspiration for my own certification program. So what we're going to talk about today is we've got 3 different sections. The first one, I'm going to dive into unexplained infertility and also going to touch on secondary infertility. So if that's you, you're definitely in the right place here. So I do get a little bit passionate when I start to talk about why unexplained infertility is not a diagnosis. It is just a cop-out by the medical field, in my opinion. And then I'm going to dive into the 3 things. So the 3 things that I believe and that I have seen when I have worked with hundreds of women who are having fertility problems. These 3 things that you really need to address, especially if it's unexplained infertility. There's always an explanation. There's always a reason. And these 3 things are certainly 3 of the top ones. And then I'm going to just answer briefly this question that I get all the time. So it's the question most women who are struggling to conceive have, and I had it myself. Why me? Why is everyone else getting pregnant but me? And there actually is an answer to that. So you've got to stay right to the end of this masterclass to find that out, but I'm going to be answering it for you. Okay, so let's dive right into unexplained infertility. This is my definition of unexplained infertility. So it's a diagnosis, and I always do little quotation marks when I talk about it because it's not really a diagnosis. It's a diagnosis given by doctors when a woman's hormone blood test and her partner's semen analysis come back normal, but they haven't bothered usually to ask them about nutrition, stress, or emotional trauma. Now, I live in the UK. So if you're watching this maybe and you live in America or somewhere like that, where maybe you have functional medicine doctors and you're paying for your medical care, so there tends to be a lot more investigations done, certainly that I've seen with clients of mine in the USA, compared to what we have here on the NHS in the UK. And even when we pay privately here in the UK, there's still not the same amount of investigations and tests and things like that done here. So I'm talking from a UK perspective when I talk about this, but it may be the same in a lot of other countries as well. And secondary infertility then is basically the same, the same meaning, except the one thing that has changed is that you have given birth already. And so usually the one main thing that comes in there is birth trauma. Okay, so I work with a lot of women with secondary infertility, and I've helped a lot of women heal from previous birth trauma. So the one thing I always ask women who are experiencing secondary infertility, because again, it's not really a thing. They're not infertile. They've had a baby before. They're definitely not infertile. So why give them this label that they are, going through infertility when they're not? So look at what's different for you now. Children are the greatest blessing. I am so thankful for my 2 children every day, but boy, can they be stressful. So I can guarantee you, if you are labeled as secondary infertility, you are definitely under a lot more stress now than you were before you had your first child. You're definitely taking a lot less time for yourself, and that then in turn can lead to things like poor eating habits. Poor sleep is actually a really big one that I didn't put down there, but poor sleep is a huge one. But one of the main things that I've seen time and time again is birth trauma. Now, when people think about birth trauma, they think about, like a near-death experience, like a hemorrhage and, things like that. And yes, that's traumatic, but there's also smaller things. There's also just, not getting the birth that you wanted, people not explaining things right to you. There can be emotional trauma that goes along with giving birth. It's not just about physical, medical trauma, okay? So I would say about 8 or 9 times out of 10, it's a birth trauma issue, and that can definitely be worked with through hypnotherapy, which I use a lot with birth trauma, my one-to-one clients. So let's go back to the unexplained infertility for a moment then. So I'll give you just a little bit of my story. My husband and I didn't get married until we were 39, so we were kind of late to the party. Started trying right away, and of course, because we were over 35 here in the UK, then they start to do, hormone tests and things like that after 6 months of trying. So I went to my GP and I got referral, and we went and had the test done, and I ended up in the gynae office of a doctor who was supposedly a fertility expert. And I think we'd maybe been trying about 9 months at this stage. And he did the internal scan and said, your womb lining looks healthy, everything looks perfect. You've got follicles on both ovaries. You've got a good amount of follicles for a woman your age. He made sure to say that for a woman your age, you've got a good amount of follicles. My husband's blood or semen sample was normal. So I was there all happy, and he was going through my notes at the end, and this is perfect, this is perfect, this is perfect. And I was like, great, everything is good, I'm good to go. And then at the end, he turned around and he said, so you have unexplained infertility. And I said, what do you mean I have unexplained infertility? And I thought to myself, you've just sat there and told me how my hormones are good and everything's perfect and everything looks great. So how do I have any type of infertility? Like, I was really bemused by this. And because I am a hypnotherapist and I do a lot of work with the mind body, like I don't like labels. I don't like, words that misrepresent things, because I understand the working of our subconscious mind. So I was very much, when I left that doctor's surgery, I do not have any type of infertility. And that's immediately what I switched the story to in my mind. I am not infertile. I do not have unexplained infertility, because he's just told me that I'm perfectly healthy. And this is where I think a lot of women begin to go downhill, when they get that diagnosis that isn't even a diagnosis. It's just a cop-out. They can't find anything medically wrong with your hormones. So there's no other explanation for it. I mean, it is actually just ridiculous, in my opinion. So I'm going to explain it for you. Unexplained and secondary. I've already told you briefly what could be one of the major causes of secondary. Explained. 3 things. Nutritional deficiencies leading to hormone disruption. You can still have hormone disruption and it not show up on a blood test. Okay, and I'm going to get into that more in a moment. Implantation failure, huge one, huge. And again, I'm going to get into that. These are my 3 things that I'm going to get into in this class. And then unresolved emotional experiences. Personally, what I believe helped me to get pregnant, and what has helped, again, all of the men and women that I have worked with. So, I mean, that is basically it in a nutshell. I've just explained unexplained infertility. It's probably one of these 3 things. And even a nutritional deficiency, like I have seen some women who have just made like a slight change to their diet, like say adding in vitamin D, a vitamin D supplement. There was a huge study done in Harvard University where they took a group of women with I think it was unexplained infertility, but infertility anyway. And 95% of them were vitamin D deficient. 95%, that is huge. So some women, yeah, they can just get some extra vitamins and nutrients that they need, and that's it explained. Or maybe they give up some things like, artificial sweeteners, aspartame, huge hormone disruptors. Okay. And actually one of the first ever clients that I worked with, even before I knew anything about fertility, before I was trying to get pregnant myself, she was just coming to me for reflexology treatments. And she drank Diet Coke all day, every day. And me knowing what I knew about artificial sweeteners and their dangers, I just said to her, like, you got to stop drinking the Diet Coke. You want your hormones to be balanced, you just got to stop it. And she did. And within a cycle or 2 cycles, she was pregnant. So little nutritional tweaks can just be what some women need. And also things that I'm going to get into, like just getting your blood flowing a bit more, or just helping with these the emotional experiences take a little bit longer, but the first 2 I have seen quite fast results with. So these are the 3 things. Estrogen dominance is one of the big things from the nutritional aspect affecting the hormones. And then inadequate blood flow. It's one of the main things because it is actually going to affect the ability for implantation to occur. And then my favorite again, unprocessed emotional trauma and trapped emotions. Now, if I had to put these in order of importance, I'd probably put them the other way around, as the emotional trauma being the most important, but I'm going to work down the way through estrogen dominance to start with, okay? So, excuse me. Estrogen dominance occurs when there's too much estrogen as compared to the levels of progesterone. So again, a lot of women come to me and they're concerned that they have low progesterone because, you've probably read in books or seen online that progesterone is a really important hormone when you're trying to get pregnant. You need to have good sufficient levels of it. After you ovulate, your progesterone kicks in. It needs to stay high in order for you to get pregnant, and especially in order for you to stay pregnant, to sustain a pregnancy. And it is when levels of estrogen are too low and they start dropping too early that we can start to get those nasty sort of PMS symptoms and all the things listed here: breast tenderness, mood swings, anxiety, insomnia. Those things are all symptoms of low progesterone. They're also symptoms of estrogen dominance, because guess what? When you have estrogen dominance, you're going to have low progesterone. The 2 go hand in hand. And so most people want to have this quick fix, and they're like, what can I take to rise my progesterone? Like, should I use a progesterone cream, or is there a food, or is there a supplement? Should I take, Vitex, things like that? And usually my answer is no. Work on the estrogen dominance, because that is really going to be beneficial for your whole overall health. And if you're just throwing a supplement or a cream at raising your progesterone, you're not actually doing anything about the estrogen dominance, okay? So first of all, estrogen is not bad. Let me just tell you that first of all. Estrogen is a great hormone to have. It's that hormone that rises in the first half of your cycle before ovulation. It gets higher and higher and higher as you come up to ovulation. It makes you feel good. Studies have shown that when when women look in the mirror at themselves at that time of the month, they actually look more beautiful. They seem more attractive to their partner. So it's a really good hormone. It helps, give you your curves, your breasts. It also helps your health. It helps to protect your bones and your heart and even your mental well-being. It helps keeping you young, helps your skin, your libido, which of course is very important when you're trying to get pregnant. So it's not a bad thing to have estrogen, but sometimes it's too much of a good thing. So when estrogen levels become too high in relation to other hormones, such as the progesterone. So this term, estrogen dominance, was coined by this Dr. John Lee, and he did a lot of research on progesterone levels. And estrogen dominance is by far the most common hormonal imbalance affecting women today. But this is where it's really important, this last part, okay? When estrogen levels are high in relation to progesterone levels, this is known as relative estrogen dominance. And this can occur even when estrogen levels are low, such as during perimenopause. When you're going into perimenopause, your estrogen will naturally decline. And that's why you start to get like low libido and vaginal dryness and things like that. But estrogen dominance can still occur when you have low estrogen. So this is why we can't go by blood tests. Because if me now at age 45 were to go and have my hormones tested, my estrogen would probably show up on the low side because I'm, probably in perimenopause at this point. But I could still have estrogen dominance, because what happens is when you have a lot of overload of toxins and chemicals in your body, these little the chemicals are called xenoestrogens, and they can actually attach to receptor cells in your body and actually mimic estrogen. So it's not even necessarily that you have more estrogen and it's going to show up on a blood test. These things are mimicking estrogen. So they're giving your body the idea that it has more estrogen. All right. So we want to go by signs and symptoms, not by blood tests when it comes to estrogen dominance. These are some of the common signs. All right. And again, some of these are also signs of low progesterone, but these are some of the main ones. So if you can tick off, at least 4 or more of these, it's probably an issue with estrogen dominance. And to be honest, most women, I would say, have some sort of an issue with estrogen dominance. It may not be affecting their fertility in the same way as others, but I always say, like, some women are just more sensitive than others. Okay. And it's one of the reasons, one of the answers to the question, why not me? Why is it so easy for some women and not for me? Some people are just more sensitive to the environment, to the chemicals, and to things in our world. Like me, for example, I have really, really sensitive skin. So if I was to use, a product with like sodium lauryl sulfate, which is the thing that makes products foam, like shower gels and shampoos, then my skin would break out. If I was to keep using that, I would probably stop ovulating because my body is so sensitive to those type of chemicals. Whereas another woman could just put dozens and dozens of these chemicals on her every day and it wouldn't affect her fertility. So some people just have more sensitivity to these things, same as we have sensitivities to food and to our skin. So these are your warning signs. So basically, if you have any of these signs, take them as a warning. Another problem in our society today is this, idea that our periods are supposed to be painful, or, a lot of women have irregular cycles. It's just normal. And it's really not normal. It's very common for women to have painful periods, unfortunately, but it's not normal. It's your body giving you a sign. So if you're having a lot of these signs and symptoms going on, it's your body giving you a little wake-up call. Say, okay, it's time to do something about this now, because otherwise you could be leading into more serious health conditions. And even if you do have any of these diagnoses, thyroid disease, PCOS, endometriosis, cysts, even autoimmune disease, I have worked with women who have had all of these things, and the work that I've done with them has helped ease their symptoms and has helped a lot of them to get pregnant as well. So you're not a write-off just because you have one of these. But if you haven't been diagnosed with anything like this, but you're having all of those signs, just use that as your warning sign to kind of kick yourself into gear a little bit. So let's start with what to do for the estrogen dominance. So your liver, basically one of its main jobs is to regulate and remove excess hormones from your body, particularly excess estrogen. So when your liver is constantly working overtime, when you're putting all of chemicals from your body products, your cleaning products, the processed food that you're eating, maybe the bottle of wine that you're having once or twice at the weekend, like your liver's working hard. It's working really hard. So it's not actually doing its proper job of filtering out those excess estrogens. Okay, so that is why, it's not, I mean, women get pregnant all the time without having a healthy diet. But I think if you're having issues, if you're having problems and you're having signs of that estrogen dominance, it's really important to help out your liver, do a little bit of a liver detoxification. And these are the nutrients that your liver really needs in order to detoxify estrogen. And some of these, in my opinion, you are still better to supplement alongside a healthy diet, because our food, we just don't get a lot of the levels of vitamins and nutrients that we need. So you can go to my website, jenniferlindoak.com, shop, and you'll see the supplements that I recommend. They're called the Lifelong Vitality Pack. Excuse me, my throat's getting dry. So yeah, you can go and have a look or do your own research, but do be sure to get one that has natural folate as opposed to folic acid. Folic acid is a synthetic, so essentially it's not going to be as good for your body as the folate is. So the second thing to help with estrogen dominance is to look at your gut microbiome. So I'm sure you've heard of this, and it is so important, but the gut microbiome, if you don't know, it's the community of microbes that live in your gut. And the microbiome actually produces and modulates all three estrogens that your body uses. So the microbiome will help to detoxify, just like the liver, the estrogens that can, lead to these more detrimental hormonal conditions. So the microbiome also produces progesterone. So again, when you have those good levels of progesterone, that will balance out the estrogen. So the key is the balance of the estrogen and progesterone. And here's an interesting fact: just one round of antibiotics knocks the gut microbiome out by 90%. 90%. So please, if you have taken antibiotics, you need to follow them with a course of, I would say, at least 3 months of probiotics. I personally take probiotics all the time. I think it's really, really important to keep your gut microbes in really good health. Okay, sorry, skipped a slide there. So this is the exposure to xenoestrogens that I was talking about. So these xenoestrogens are the little chemicals that attach to those receptor cells and mimic estrogen in your body. So these are some way just to reduce your exposure to those. Eating organic and avoiding conventional meat where possible. I know where I live, it's quite difficult to do that, but do it where possible. And if you can't get good organic, like fruit and veg, then look up on the internet, just Google like the Dirty Dozen, and that will give you like the top 12 most contaminated fruits and vegetables most contaminated with pesticides. So if you can avoid those, or buy organic in those if you can, and then the other ones, you can eat as long as you're washing them really well. And I used to be, with my clients, I used to be quite, I didn't want, it costing my clients a lot of money to replace everything in their home right away. So I used to say, just when your shampoo runs out, just come to me and we'll get you a more natural option. Now I'm a little bit more harsh. I just say, get rid of it, get a bin bag, go around your house, get all the toxic chemicals, all your cleaning products, all your beauty products that have, all these nasty xenoestrogen chemicals in them, just throw them out and get new ones in. Okay, make your own. That's why I love, that's why I use the doTERRA supplements and I use doTERRA products, because I love essential oils, because you can DIY your own stuff really, really easily. Like I buy like a 5-liter bottle of Castile soap from like an aromatherapy supplier, 5 liters of it, and I make hand wash, I make shower gel, I make body wash, I make bath wash, and I just put my different essential oils in it. So DIYing your own products is not difficult. All right, skincare is a little bit more difficult, and that's why I do buy the doTERRA skincare, because it is more natural than what you would get in the shops. But yeah, get rid of the toxic beauty care. That includes the perfume and the hairsprays and the body sprays, all of those. Some people suggest not using non-stick pans, that can contain it as well. I think that's a little bit controversial. I don't know if it's proven or not, but I just say, why take any risks? Just get rid of them and use something else. So you can take phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens are plant estrogens, and again, the plant-based estrogen compounds bind to the same estrogen receptor cells as the xenoestrogens do. And when a receptor site is already occupied by this little phytoestrogen, it won't let the xenoestrogens in. So it's like the phytoestrogen's like the bouncer, like the doorman, goes, no, get out, you're not coming here. So you can look up on my website in the shop as well for those phytoestrogen supplements. The fourth one then is watch your weight. And, you know, this can be easier said than done, speaking from personal experience. Excess mid-belly fat especially is a real sign of estrogen dominance. So excess body fat can lead to an overproduction of estrogen, and then excess estrogen actually makes more fat cells. So it's kind of a vicious circle. So do what you can with it. Remember, dieting does not work. I go, you know, hypnotherapy route over dieting any day. Eat real food, ditch the sugar, and then address the emotions, which we're going to get into very, very soon. Okay, so the second of the three things is the poor blood flow. All right. Now, if you're a gal who likes studies, then here you go. There's a number of studies that have been done that show that poor uterine and ovarian blood flow can be an important and often undiagnosed factor in infertility, miscarriage, and an IVF failure. So research shows that poor blood flow may be at the root of unexplained infertility. Wowzers. I've only known that for years. But this British study was done, and it evaluated the extent of blood flow problems in women with unexplained infertility in a natural menstrual cycle. So there had been a lot of studies done more in IVF cycles, but this study looked at natural conception. So the study showed that the women with unexplained subfertility had blood flow patterns similar to the control group, but at the critical time, which is during the mid to late follicular phase, that, you know, your 2-week wait time, before ovulation, and then the early luteal phase just after ovulation, that 2-week wait time, the blood flow to the endometrium was significantly impaired despite hormone profiles and thickness of the uterine lining. So women's hormones were fine, thickness of their womb was fine, but the blood flow to the endometrium was significantly impaired in the women with unexplained infertility. So the researchers concluded that endometrial and subendometrial vascularity blood flow are significantly reduced in women with unexplained subfertility during the mid to late follicular phase, irrespective of estrogen, progesterone, and endometrial lining. So that's a pretty good finding. And it tells us a lot, really, when it comes to implantation stage being the failure in a lot of treatments. I mean, when you think of IVF or ICSI, like ICSI, they've got your egg in a petri dish and they inject the sperm directly into it. And they're taking only the most, you know, grade A, brilliant sperm, and they're taking only the most grade A, perfect eggs, and they're injecting it straight in. You know, that should work. That should work every time. But what they don't have any control over is when they put it back in that implantation stage. And that main thing is the blood flow. So just knowing that if you have unexplained infertility, that a lot of the, you know, the women in the study, it showed that those women had significantly less blood flow to the endometrium. So what causes poor blood flow? Well, I am an energy therapist, holistic therapist. For me, everything starts with the energy. So prana is our life force energy. It's what moves through us. It's what keeps us alive. It's also what moves our blood and our lymph and our nutrients and our toxins in and out of our body. So it really is just the essential component of our life to have this good energy flow through us. And it's when that energy becomes stagnant or compromised in some way. So we get this stagnation of energy. Stagnation of energy then leads to stagnation of blood flow, stagnation of lymph. And then that's when disease can actually happen in the body, when the energy just becomes stagnant. And this is why holistic therapies like acupuncture and reflexology and massage, those things all encourage the flow of energy throughout our body. So those are what can help to keep us well. All right. So other things that cause the poor blood flow: physical trauma, obviously, accidents, injuries, surgery. So if you're to get a hit to your stomach, physical, that's going to stagnate the energy around there. And then what's going to happen is it's going to cut off the energy supply, and it's going to cut off the blood supply to other areas of the body. So it's not just affecting the area where you were stabbed, for example. It's going to affect all the other energies that the blood and lymph and everything can't flow to. All right. And exactly the same thing with emotional trauma. So emotional trauma works exactly the same way on the energy body as physical trauma does. So if you have an emotional trauma, an emotional experience, it's going to be like getting a knife in that area in terms of energy. The energy is going to get stuck, stagnant, blocked, and that will stop the blood flow as well. And then also more of our day-to-day things, like our sedentary lifestyles, where we sit a lot more. We're not moving around, we're not moving our hips. Stress, of course, stress is a big answer to, a lot of things, but it's true. Stress will impact our blood flow, as will poor diet, as will poor sleep, as just, an unhealthy lifestyle in general. Signs of poor blood flow, particularly in your reproductive organs, they can show up as things like if you have dark brown blood at the start or the end of your period, that can indicate that the blood flow isn't good to the uterus. Low progesterone can be a sign of that, but of course then low progesterone is also linked to the excess estrogen. The excess estrogen is also linked to the poor blood flow because you're not getting the nutrients flowing. So it's all connected, it's all linked. Painful periods as well can be a sign of that. Also, I'll talk about that in a moment. The position of the womb is important with those first two as well. Large clots, heavy bleeding, fibroid cysts, endometriosis. So like when you have endometriosis, maybe you have like lesions or you've had surgery and you have scars. Again, the site of those scars is like a trauma. It's a physical trauma, and it's going to impede that blood flow again. So if you have cold hands and feet a lot, or a lot of numbness in your hands and feet, that can be a sign of poor blood flow. Varicose veins in the legs as well. And then of course, infertility can be a sign because you're not, it's the implantation stage that is affected when you have poor blood flow. So your ovaries basically need blood flow to ovulate, and your womb needs good blood flow for implantation. It really is as simple as that. And like I said, that's why so many assisted conception treatments fail at the implantation stage. So my top tips to help implantation is to get your blood flowing. Get your blood flowing any way you can. And one of the best ways to do that is by massage. So abdominal massage, womb massage. Any massage that you can do around the area that you think's affected is going to help. Same with castor oil packs. We do those on the abdomen. You can do them on the liver, on the womb, the whole abdomen. Really warming essential oils, so like ginger and cinnamon essential oils rubbed on. Taking fish oils internally is really good. Just walking, moving, yoga is excellent for getting blood flow. Okay. And if you're thinking, how do I massage my womb? How do I do a castor oil pack? Stay tuned to the end, because I'm going to let you know of an online program that I have that takes you through step by step how to do all of this. So does your uterus position matter? Yes. Even though every woman who's ever asked a doctor, their answer has been no. It has no impact on your fertility. It has an impact on the blood flow. Okay, because if you look at this little retroverted uterus here, that's pressed up here against the large intestine, There's no blood here. There's no blood being able to flow around this whole section of the uterus because it's practically stuck to the intestines. Similarly, some women's womb can lean forward over the bladder, so that impedes the energy flow between the bladder and the uterus. So when you have a retroverted uterus, that is going to impact the blood flow to your uterus. And the blood flow to your uterus, as we've learned from those studies, can 100% affect your fertility. So next time you're talking to a doctor about that, tell them about those studies on blood flow and unexplained infertility patients. Okay, so let's talk about stress for a moment, because stress, of course, does affect blood flow, and blood flow, as we know, does affect your fertility. So our bodies are basically designed in exactly the same way as when we were cave women. They're no different. We're designed exactly the same. So if there was a threat to safety, like something attacking us, then the body instantly goes into fight or flight mode, where you can either fight your attacker or you can run away from your attacker really, really quickly. So what that does is, usually in the wild, it's the flight. The animals will run. So it sends the blood flow into the legs and into the arms to give you the ability to run away faster from your attacker. So in order to give you that much energy, your body will then have to take the blood flow away from the parts of the body that it doesn't deem necessary for survival. Guess what the main one is? The reproductive system, and the digestive system is the other one. So they'll pull the blood flow away so you can run away from your attacker. All right. So there are tiny little receptors which signal to our reproductive system when we are under stress that it's not a safe time for us to reproduce. So stress literally can shut off our ability to get pregnant. We see it all the time when animals are in zoos, and I think with the pandas it's happened a lot. They don't reproduce. It's always a big deal when there's a baby panda born, right? Because those animals are under threat. They're not in their natural environment. They're in a cage. They're stressed out. And their little receptor signals are telling them this is a really unsafe situation. It's, warning, flashing lights. It's not a safe time for you to reproduce. And your body is exactly the same. It's doing exactly the same thing. And even if you don't feel particularly stressed, what happens now in our world, where the constant scrolling, the constant, ADHD, where we've got so many things going on at one time, throw into that a stressful job, different things in your life, and you've got chronic stress, and you maybe don't even realize that. So that's where the real issue is coming in with stress. So your body can't tell the difference between you being under serious threat or just from the regular old stress response. Your body has exactly the same response to it. So when you do like high impact exercise, when you're out running on the roads, again, that blood flow is being pumped away from your reproductive system to help to give you the energy to run. So that's why high intensity workouts aren't the best thing if you are struggling to conceive, because you want to get that blood flow. So something more like yoga, walking is going to be much more beneficial for you than running or high intensity workouts, particularly all through your cycle, actually, because those studies shown that that it was the follicular phase of the blood flow was affected, and ideally you shouldn't be running during your period either, because your womb has swollen up to a bigger size, and that can affect the ligaments of your womb being pulled. And then in your luteal phase, it's your 2-week wait, you want to get that relaxation time to help with implantation. So yeah, not the best kind of exercise. So this is our stress response: fight, flight, or freeze. And fight or flight is the one that we're most common with, and that's what happens with animals in the wild. But this freeze response is basically what is becoming most common in humans, because we don't fight it and we don't flight it, we don't run away. Like if we were really stressed and we went out running, like running is good to remove stress from your body, and we like shook it all off at the end of the day, that we'd probably be better off. But we don't, do we? We just go just keep it all locked inside of us. And we actually get to the stage where our nervous system is just numb. We're just in such a state of chronic stress that we are numb. We are frozen. Okay. So when some well-meaning person says to you, just relax and let it happen, how many times have you wanted to punch them in the face when they said that? It's not as easy. If only it were as easy as going and taking a bubble bath, going to a spa, having some self-care. It's not as easy as that because you're stuck, you're frozen in this stress response. And added to that, the third thing, when you're holding on to a lot of unprocessed emotional trauma, that is creating even more stress in your body. Even more stress is going on when all of this has been stuffed down, all of these memories, all of these traumas, all of these things have been repressed. Okay. So first of all, I want you to know, just like the estrogen, emotions are not bad. Emotions are good. Emotions are part of being a human being, and we are human beings. Emotion means energy in motion. So remember I said we want to have that energy flowing throughout our bodies to have good health. And when you're going through fertility struggles, you are entitled to feel all the emotions. You may go through one day feeling angry and jealous and sad and hopeless and all the things, and it's okay. It's okay to feel all those things, but feel them, cry, punch your pillow, do whatever you need to do to move them through your body. Don't just say, oh, I'm so annoyed, I'm so jealous, she's pregnant again. I'm just gonna stuff it down here and just let it fester and let it burn in my stomach until I have like stomach problems. Okay, so feel it, experience it, allow it to flow in and out. So what happens is when we stuff down these emotional experiences and these traumas, these emotions literally become lodged in our physical body, well, in our energetic body, but you know, it's all connected. So when I'm doing this work with women, I basically go into the body and I ask, we do this through something called muscle testing or energy testing. Where in the womb do you have trapped emotions? What trapped emotions do you have in your ovaries? And we clear them, we get them out of the body because they are in there, believe me. So it's different for everyone, but sometimes when you've been through a really painful experience, you'll hold that in the womb. You'll have those painful periods. Maybe you've been through something that you feel like a complete failure. You'll hold that in your ovaries and different areas and different things. So for me personally, when I got to about the 1 year mark of not getting pregnant, I was coming up to nearly 40 at the time, and I was doing everything right. So I was on all the right foods and supplements, and I was having massage and reflexology, and I thought I was relaxing. I thought I was doing self-care, but I knew my problem was deeper. I knew that it was something emotional, and I was very blessed to know this stuff already, having been a holistic therapist for so many years. I knew that every physical problem had an emotional root. And I knew that there were things concerning my own birth, my own mother, and things in my childhood. I just had this real gut feeling that those were the problem. And I knew that once I cleared those, that I would get pregnant. And that is exactly what happened. So I would say I did this intense emotional healing work for probably about 8 weeks, where it was just, full on. I wouldn't necessarily recommend everyone do it that full on, but I was full on. And I think I was seeing like 3 or 4 different practitioners for different things, but I was doing a lot of the emotional healing work. And I got to the point, I remember when one of the last trapped emotions was released from my right fallopian tube, I felt it. Like I felt so light. I felt lighter. I felt emotionally lighter. And it was the very next cycle or a couple of weeks time then that I got my positive test. So I kind of had this intuitive knowing that that was it, that I had done it. Of course, you're not going to clear every single emotional trauma and experience that you've ever had in your life. There's a lot in there, but you can certainly clear what is causing the current problem, such as you not being able to get pregnant, okay? So some of the most common things that I have seen that affect fertility through my clients, of course, sexual assault and abuse is a major one. And I would say if you have been through anything like that, that is more than likely what is preventing you from getting pregnant, regardless of what other diagnosis you have, what age you are, anything that needs to be cleared. It really does. Same with abortion. Abortion festers so many emotions in women, and it's one of those things that really has to be stuffed down because women don't talk about it. It's not acceptable to talk about it. So even though you may know in your mind consciously that was the best decision for me at the time, subconsciously you're feeling all the guilt and all the resentment and all the sadness, all the things that you have buried down there. So those are two major ones. Miscarriage, it can be major and it can be very minor, because a lot of women, when they experience miscarriage, they do grieve and they do cry and they do get it out. So I would encourage you to do that if it happens. Again, miscarriage is one of those things, it's common, but just because it's common doesn't mean you just have to get over it and get on with it. You should cry and you should grieve for it, okay? Death of a parent as a child, this is an interesting one. So if your parent has died when you're young, you don't have the understanding as if your parent dies when you're older. Obviously, it's still hard, but you have an understanding of life then, that this is what happens. People get older and they die. When you're a child, you don't understand that. So what happens is you just feel like you've been abandoned. You feel like that person has just abandoned you. So that's a pretty heavy one that needs to be cleared. And then there are lots of issues that we can have with our mothers, with our fathers, with past relationships. Perfectionism is a big one that I see in women struggling to get pregnant. Of course, that stems from usually issues with parents, issues from a past relationship. So it's all related. Excuse me, I just need to plug my computer in. And then fear. Obviously, there's a lot of sort of fears that come up that in your subconscious that women don't even really realize that they're having. So a lot of women have fear of being pregnant, of giving birth, of fear of not being a good mother. Those are the most common ones that come up. And consciously, you may be like, no, I don't feel fear in those things, but subconsciously you do. So that's where the hypnotherapy comes in. So look, I'm going to tell you about my online program next, which basically I am going to teach you how you can identify and release these emotions yourself, and a bunch of other stuff as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. But if you feel like your trauma has just been too heavy, too much for you to process on your own, so particularly something like abuse, abortion, birth trauma is one that I like to do one-to-one with people because it's so, it's so individual, it's so different. Perhaps grief that, you just think, I just can't work through this on my own. And reproductive conditions, because they're usually a sign that something has been going on for a long time, and we need to get to the root of it. So any of those things, or just anything that you feel you don't want to deal with on your own, you can go to my website and have a look under my one-to-one section. You'll see it's just called hypnoenergy therapy now, and that's just like my umbrella term. It's a therapy that I've put together from hypnotherapy, from energy therapy, from a lot of different things that I have learned and used over the years. And I've just basically come up with this thing that I just think is phenomenal. It just works. So I don't really need to do all of this other stuff. I just do that. So it's, usually I can, depending on what it is, but usually we can do it in like 4 sessions over a month, and the trauma is cleared out of your energy. Okay, with some things it may take a little longer, but most things we can do it. I actually have it set for like 33 days. I say that's usually my sweet spot, 33 days for clearing it. But if you're a DIYer like me and you like to do things for yourself, then this is my Mind Body Baby online fertility program. Go at your own pace, take your time, but still have support from me. and basically learn how to do some of this stuff for yourself. Before we get into that, just let me, and I almost forgot about this, I'm glad I did my slides. Why is everyone getting pregnant but me? That big question that I said I was going to answer for you, okay? So first of all, it's actually, there's not more people getting pregnant now. It just seems that way because you are trying to get pregnant. It's a bit like when you go to buy a new car, you're thinking about buying a new car, and all of a sudden you see that new car everywhere. It's the same kind of thing. Because it's in your mind all the time, you start to see it a lot more and you start to notice it a lot more. There's still the same amount of pregnant women in the post office queue as there has always been. You're just noticing it more now, okay? But on a deeper level than that, it actually comes down to our body's constitution and how we're made up, basically. You know, like I said before about how some people are just more sensitive to things than others. So this comes from like the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is like 4,000 years old, original ancient medicine from India. And it's based on these three major body constitutions called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Now, most people are a combination of all three, but you'll tend to have one or two that is predominant, that you have the most of. So for me, you know, like I'm actually a Pitta Kapha. For some people, you might be a Vata Pitta, a Kapha Vata, whatever. There's different variations, okay? But traditionally speaking, when you look at the old Ayurvedic books and texts, they do say that the Vata dosha type are the least fertile women, with Pitta then being moderately fertile and Kapha being highly fertile. So here's the thing, you can go and do these quizzes online of what's my dosha, and you can find out what you are, but you don't really need to, because like I said, we're all made up of all three of these. And what happens is, even if you're Kapha, if you're predominantly Kapha, but you're having problems getting pregnant, or you're having problems with your periods, or you're having problems with your hormones, that's a sign that your Vata has increased in your body. So it doesn't really matter what you are on a base level, on a quiz level. If you're having problems like that, your Vata is going to be increased. So it's just made you less fertile for now. And even if you're predominantly a Vata person, Vata people still do get pregnant. So it doesn't mean that, you know, you might be the least fertile type, but of course you can still get pregnant. So what happens is when Vata increases in the body, Vata is basically like the downward flow, the downward movement of this energy. So again, it's that energy getting stuck in certain areas, especially down here in our reproductive system. So what we need to do is just get that energy flowing again and try to reduce the Vata in our bodies. So to reduce Vata, one of the main things to do is to reduce our stress. So we can help to reduce our stress by dealing with these emotional traumas that we've been through. We can reduce our stress by massaging our abdomen, helping to get the blood flowing a bit more. We can reduce our stress by, you know, meditating, getting into a better routine. Also, Vata is aggravated by things like cold foods and cold drinks. So we can switch to more nourishing foods like soups and stews and warm drinks. Those are all things that are really good for your fertility, okay? But that is merely the reason. There are some people who are body constitution-wise more fertile, all right? And I know that's probably not the answer that you were looking for, but you know, it's it's how it is, but it can be changed. Even if you're Vata, it does not mean that you are infertile. You can absolutely do things to help to decrease your Vata in your body, all right? Okay, so let's talk about this Mind Body Baby program. So there is 6 online modules that basically take you through everything you need to know: mind, body, emotions, even spirit. So we talk about the menstrual cycle, the mind, the body, the emotions. Believe is all to do with, you know, the hypnotherapy and kind of reprogramming the subconscious. And then we look at the womb. So I'll take you through the different modules. So module 1 is all about your menstrual cycle. And I know many of you probably already know a lot of this stuff, but it does no harm to review it and just make sure that you're understanding your cycle properly, that you know what your fertility biomarkers are. So those are the signs that let you know that you are fertile and when you're fertile, how to find when that fertile window is. And there's even a little module all about sex and how to spice things up and things like that. The next module is about the mind. So you'll learn about your subconscious mind and basically how we can make tweaks to reprogram it, how your beliefs about yourself and fertility are formed. So I know for me, like my big belief was, what if I'm too old? I'm just too old to get pregnant. And that was, again, it was just a story I was telling myself. It wasn't true because I did get pregnant at 40 and at 42. So, but most people have those stories. What if I'm too old? What if I never get pregnant? What if this? What if that? So I'm going to teach you a way that you can start to reframe that and rewrite the stories in your mind. The body, then we will go into hormone balancing, but really, really easy peasy because I don't want to confuse anyone. And these aren't like really long videos of hours on end about hormones. They're just exactly what you need to know. How to detox your estrogen dominance and how to increase your progesterone, how to reduce your cortisol, how to manage your insulin. Those are the really important ones. And you can get an opportunity to get a personalized hormone balancing protocol where you can fill out a quiz and I can let you know basically where, going by signs and symptoms, not by blood tests, where your hormone imbalance may lie. And we'll go into nutrition, again, just keeping it really basic. What's the best nutrition for your egg health and for his sperm health? I do give you a 30-day healthy fertility boosting meal plan, complete with recipes. It's all there, everything you need for your body. And then the emotions, we really get into it. So we're going to look at what these trapped emotions are, excuse me, and how they affect fertility, how to find them, how to identify them, and how to release them. And then how to prevent them from becoming trapped again, how to keep that energy flowing. And this is my favorite, maybe my favorite part, where I show you an example session of me releasing trapped emotions from my body. This video is actually taken from before I got pregnant. The month before I got pregnant, I was in Florida and I was, like I said, doing all this emotional healing work on myself. I decided to video what I was doing, and I did think about updating it for this program and recording it again, but I thought, no, I really like that it's there, that you can see me before I got pregnant and exactly what I was doing, exactly what I was experiencing and what I was releasing. So it really helps when you can see me doing it on myself, so then you can do it on yourself. And then Believe is the module that's basically where we dive into, hypnotherapy and helping to, listen to the words that you're listening to and the visualizations that you're seeing in your mind, and how that really can help you to connect with your baby. And, it's more than positive affirmations and vision boards. It's definitely a lot deeper work than that. So then finally we look at the womb, because like I've been talking a lot about implantation, the womb is your home for your baby, for where your baby's going to have its home for the next 9 months. So you want to prepare it, you want to prep it, physically cleanse your womb to help implantation, again, to help that blood flow, to help to clear out the endometrial lining. And then we have a process it's like a visualization, energetic process to emotionally and energetically heal your womb, a womb activation. And then I show you self-womb massage, self-reflexology techniques, and what essential oils I recommend you use through each phase of your cycle. So the massage, the womb massage and the reflexology points and the oils change slightly depending where you are in your cycle. So there's step-by-step videos of the different phases of your cycle. And that's what I called my fertile flow protocols: abdominal massage, reflexology, and essential oils. So you get all of that. Now, just a note for any of you who are maybe holistic therapists, or you think, oh, I really love to learn how to do this with my clients, then do check out the Fertile Woman Practitioner Program. Unfortunately, you can't just watch this and take it because it's my stuff. You do need to do the practitioner program so that you can get the certification in it, so that you're covered in it all. And so you can learn how to deal with different things as they come up for people as well. That's really, really important. You actually learn how to coach, how to be a really good coach, how to really dive deeper into people's issues, because a lot of people, you know, they may not even be aware of traumas that they have, or they may not even be aware of emotional experiences. So it's learning how to question them to really dive deeper to come up with this. So do check that out if you're interested in becoming a practitioner in all of this, okay? So Mind Body Baby, if you join today, you will save £100 on the total price, plus you will get these 2 bonuses. So you'll get a 21-day hormone detox. So this is on top of the 30-day meal plan. You'll also get a 21-day detox plan with recipes. So this would be if you are showing a lot of signs of estrogen dominance. This would be where I would start before you go into the 30-day recipe and meal plan. Get your liver detoxed and all of that first of all. And there is a guidebook that goes into more about estrogen disrupting chemicals and how to replace things like that in your home. And then the second bonus is you will get a group session of my fertility hypno energy therapy. So that's the one-to-one session that I was talking about earlier, is basically me and you one-to-one doing hypno energy therapy. If that's not in your budget, then you can do it in this group setting. And it is obviously more generalized. It's just a general fertility one, but it's still really, really good. And a lot of people have found it really, really helpful. So you'll get that as a bonus. If you sign up within the next 48 hours, and like I said, you're also going to save £100 if you sign up within the next 48 hours. It's usually $597, but you can get it for $497 if you're quick and you hit the button below that says learn more below this video. It will take you to a page with lots more info about the program and where you can sign up. So you've only got 2 days to get it at that price and to get those 2 bonuses. And I really, really look forward to supporting you inside the program. On that page, when you click learn more, you will see a list of frequently asked questions. If you look at that and you still have a question, feel free to email me or my team at hello@jenniferlindo.com. I am always here. I love and I'm happy to answer all of your questions. So thank you so much for sticking with me for this 1-hour masterclass. And I hope to connect with you again really soon.